The handcuffs clicked shut with a force that bit into bone. Officer Derek Shaw leaned close, his breath hot and reeking of stale coffee and arrogance, and whispered, "Nobody cares about a drifter like you. You're going away for a long time, and I'm getting a promotion." They thought he was just another number in the system. They thought he was Marcus Stone, a nobody drifting through their corrupt little town of Oak Haven. They were wrong. They didn't know the man in the orange jumpsuit wasn't a criminal. He was Special Agent Marcus Hale, a decorated FBI operative on a deep-cover RICO assignment, and the video recording hidden in his jacket button was still running. You're about to witness the most satisfying courtroom takedown in history. When the predator becomes the prey, the silence is deafening. The air in the Oak Haven County Courthouse was thick, heavy with the scent of old wood, floor wax, and the quiet desperation of people realizing their lives were over. The fluorescent lights buzzed with a headache-inducing hum, flickering slightly above the defense table. Sitting in the defendant's chair, Marcus Hale kept his posture rigid. He wore an ill-fitting orange jumpsuit that smelled of industrial detergent and sweat. His wrists were shackled to the table, the metal cold against his skin. To the jury, he looked exactly like what the district attorney was painting him to be: a dangerous transient, a drifter with a violent streak and a trunk full of narcotics. To the man sitting 2 tables away, Officer Derek Shaw, Marcus looked like a trophy. Shaw sat behind the prosecutor, leaning back in his chair with a smugness that bordered on obscenity. He was chewing gum, his uniform pressed perfectly, his badge gleaming under the harsh lights. Beside him sat Chief of Police Victor Langston, a man with a neck thick as a tree stump, and eyes that had seen everything and cared about nothing. "All rise," the bailiff droned. Judge Harlan Pierce swept into the room. He was a relic of the old guard in Alabama, a man with silver hair combed back severely and a face etched with lines of permanent disapproval. He sat down, adjusted his glasses, and looked at Marcus with distinct distaste. "Be seated," Pierce grumbled. "We are back on the record in the matter of the state versus Marcus Stone. The charge is assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, and possession with intent to distribute. Mr. Hale, is the state ready to proceed with its first witness?" District Attorney Preston Hale stood up. He was a tall, skeletal man who moved with the jerky precision of a marionette. "We are, Your Honor. The state calls Officer Derek Shaw to the stand." Marcus remained silent. His public defender, a young, overworked woman named Lena Vargas, placed a trembling hand on his arm. "Don't worry, Mr. Stone," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm going to try to object when I can, but Judge Pierce, he usually sides with the officers." Marcus turned to her. His eyes were calm, unsettlingly so. "Just let them talk, Lena. Let them say everything they want to say. Don't stop them." Lena frowned, confused. "But—" "Trust me," Marcus said softly. Officer Shaw took the stand. He placed his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and sat down. He looked at the jury, 12 ordinary citizens who looked terrified of making the wrong decision, and gave them a practiced, shark-like smile. "Officer Shaw," District Attorney Preston Hale began, pacing in front of the jury box, "walk us through that evening." Shaw cleared his throat. "Yes, sir. It was late that night. I was on patrol near the old lumberyard on Route 9. We've had reports of drug activity there. I saw the defendant's vehicle, a beat-up sedan, parked suspiciously behind the warehouse. And what happened next? I initiated a stop," Shaw lied effortlessly. "I approached the vehicle. The defendant, Mr. Stone, appeared agitated. His eyes were dilated. I asked him to step out of the car." Marcus watched Shaw carefully. He was studying the officer's body language, the micro-expressions, the way Shaw tapped his left index finger on the railing of the witness stand. A tell. He was reciting a script. "Did he comply?" Hale asked. "No, sir," Shaw said, shaking his head theatrically. "He became belligerent. He started shouting that I had no right to be there. Then he reached for his waistband. I feared for my life, sir. I thought he had a weapon. I had to forcefully remove him from the vehicle for my own safety." The jury gasped softly. A middle-aged woman in the front row shook her head, looking at Marcus with fear. "And after you subdued him, we searched the vehicle," Shaw continued. "We found 2 kilos of cocaine wrapped in duct tape under the driver's seat and a registered Glock with the serial numbers filed off in the glove box." "Lies!" Lena whispered furiously, scribbling on her notepad. "There was no gun. The police report said the gun was in your waistband. Now it's in the glove box." "Let him talk," Marcus repeated, his voice low and dangerous. "Officer Shaw," Hale said, leaning in, "did the defendant say anything to you while you were transporting him to the station?" Shaw smirked. He looked directly at Marcus, his eyes cold and dead. "Yeah, he told me he'd kill me if he ever got out. Said he had friends in high places." Hale turned to the jury, pausing for dramatic effect. "A threat on an officer's life. Thank you, Officer Shaw." Judge Pierce looked over his spectacles at Lena. "Cross-examination, Miss Vargas." Lena stood up, her papers shuffling awkwardly. "Yes, Your Honor." She walked to the podium. She looked small against the backdrop of the massive courtroom. "Officer Shaw, you said my client reached for his waistband, but your body camera footage. It was turned off during the altercation, wasn't it?" Shaw didn't blink. "Equipment malfunction, ma'am. Battery died right as I exited my cruiser. Terrible timing." "Terrible timing indeed," Lena said, her voice gaining a little strength. "And the dash cam? Corrupted file?" Shaw said, bored. "It's looking into it. So we have only your word that my client, a man with no prior criminal record in this state, suddenly decided to attack an armed officer." "My word," Shaw said, his voice dropping an octave. "And the 2 kilos of cocaine we found in his car." Lena looked helpless. "Without the footage, it was," he said, she said. "And in Oakhaven, the badge always won." "No further questions," she mumbled. As Shaw stepped down, he passed the defense table. He slowed just enough to wink at Marcus. It was a subtle, quick movement, but Marcus caught it. "Enjoy it while it lasts, Derek," Marcus thought. "You just hammered the first nail into your own coffin." The afternoon dragged on, a slow-motion execution of justice. The prosecution called witness after witness. A forensic analyst who claimed the drugs tested positive for high-grade cocaine. A station clerk who claimed Marcus had been violent and abusive during processing. Every word was a fabrication, a carefully constructed tower of lies designed to bury Marcus Stone under a life sentence. Marcus sat through it all, his face a mask of stone. He wasn't just a defendant. He was an observer. He was analyzing the hierarchy. Chief Langston was the architect. Shaw was the muscle. District Attorney Hale was the cleaner. They had done this before. You could tell by the rhythm of it. They picked drifters, people without families, people who wouldn't be missed, and pinned their own cartel shipments on them to clear the books. It was a perfect racket until they picked the wrong drifter. "The state calls Chief Victor Langston to the stand," Hale announced. A ripple of murmurs went through the courtroom. Langston was a local celebrity. He played golf with the mayor, organized the charity drives, and kept the town safe. He walked to the stand with the heavy, confident gait of a man who owned the building. "Chief Langston," Hale smiled. "Thank you for being here." "Duty calls, Preston," Langston rumbled. His voice sounded like gravel in a mixer. "Chief, you oversaw the processing of the evidence in this case. Can you verify the chain of custody?" "I can," Langston said. "I personally logged the narcotics into the evidence locker. I wanted to make sure everything was by the book, considering the volume of the seizure." "And did you speak to the defendant?" Langston turned his gaze toward Marcus. It wasn't a look of anger. It was a look of pity, the way a butcher looks at a cow. "I did. I tried to see if he wanted to cooperate, give up his supplier, maybe cut a deal." "And what was his response?" "He laughed at me," Langston lied. "Told me I didn't know who I was messing with. Said his organization would burn this town to the ground." "Objection!" Lena Vargas shouted, jumping up. "Hearsay and prejudicial." "Overruled," Judge Pierce snapped without looking up. "It goes to the defendant's state of mind and intent. Sit down, Miss Vargas." Lena sank back into her chair, her face flushing red. "I can't believe this," she hissed. "They're making you out to be a cartel boss." "It's the narrative," Marcus whispered. They need a big win to justify the federal grant money they applied for recently. Anti-drug trafficking funds. They need a bust. Lena looked at him, startled. How do you know about the grant money? Marcus didn't answer. He just tapped his finger on the table. Langston finished his testimony, painting Marcus as a hardened career criminal. The jury was eating it up. They looked at Marcus not as a man, but as a monster who had invaded their peaceful community. The prosecution rests, Hale announced, buttoning his suit jacket with a flourish. Judge Pierce looked at the clock. It is late afternoon. Miss Vargas, are you ready to present your case? Lena stood up. She looked tired. She had no witnesses, no evidence, just the word of a man who refused to give his real name. Your Honor, the defense would like to request a recess until tomorrow morning to— Request denied, Pierce barked. We are finishing this today. Call your witness or rest your case. Lena looked at Marcus, panic in her eyes. Marcus, I have nothing unless you want to testify. But if you do, Hale will tear you apart. Marcus slowly uncrossed his legs. The shackles clinked loudly in the silent courtroom. He took a deep breath. I'll testify, Marcus said. His voice wasn't a whisper anymore. It projected to the back of the room. Mr. Stone, I advise against it, Lena warned. I'll testify, Marcus repeated, standing up. But I don't need to take the stand just yet. I have a preliminary motion regarding evidence. Judge Pierce scowled. You have a lawyer, son. Let her speak. My lawyer doesn't know about the evidence I have, Your Honor, Marcus said smoothly, because I couldn't risk it being corrupted like Officer Shaw's dash cam. The room went dead silent. Shaw shifted in his seat, his gum chewing, stopping for a second. Chief Langston narrowed his eyes. What are you playing at? Judge Pierce demanded. I am requesting permission to connect a digital device to the court's AV system, Marcus said. I believe it contains exculpatory evidence that will refute the testimony of Officer Shaw and Chief Langston. We've already been through discovery, Hale shouted, jumping up. Anything he has is inadmissible. He's stalling. It's not stalling if it proves perjury, Marcus said calmly. He looked directly at the judge. Unless the court isn't interested in the truth. Judge Pierce looked at the angry prosecutor, then at the confident defendant. He was an arrogant judge, but he was also curious, and he knew the court reporter was typing every word. If he denied evidence that the defendant claimed proved perjury, it would be grounds for a mistrial appeal instantly. You have a short time, Pierce grumbled. If this is a waste of time, Mr. Stone, I will hold you in contempt on top of your sentence. Marcus turned to Lena. Reaching into my back pocket is difficult with these cuffs. In my right pocket, there is a small black USB drive. Take it. Lena hesitated, then reached into his pocket. She pulled out a sleek, military-grade encrypted drive. Give it to the bailiff, Marcus instructed. Shaw leaned over to Langston. What the hell is that? He whispered harshly. Langston didn't answer. His face had gone pale. He was staring at the drive. He recognized the brand. It wasn't something you bought at a regular store. The bailiff took the drive and plugged it into the presentation laptop. A screen descended from the ceiling. Open the folder labeled Oak Haven Sting Alpha, Marcus said. The bailiff clicked. Now, Marcus said, his voice turning into steel. Play file Shaw, arrest backup. The screen flickered to life. The audio crackled, and suddenly the courtroom was transported back to that night. But this wasn't the dash cam footage. This was a wide-angle, high-definition view from a button camera on Marcus's chest. On the screen, Officer Shaw was visible, leaning into the car window. Get out of the car, boy, the digital Shaw sneered. Officer, I'm complying. What is the probable cause? Marcus's voice on the recording was calm. Probable cause is I don't like your face. Get out before I drag you out. The courtroom gasped. On the screen, the video showed Marcus stepping out with his hands up. No reaching for the waistband. No struggle. Then the video showed Shaw shoving Marcus against the hood. It showed Shaw reaching into his own patrol bag, pulling out a brick of white powder and tossing it into Marcus's back seat. Look at that, the digital Shaw laughed. Looks like you're riding heavy tonight. That's a life sentence right there. The video continued. Shaw pulled out his phone. He dialed a number. Chief? Yeah, it's Derek. I got one. Yeah, nobody. Just a drifter. We can pin the shipment from the warehouse on him. Yeah, come on down. The video froze. In the courtroom, silence wasn't just an absence of sound. It was a physical weight. Officer Shaw was standing up, his face the color of a tomato. That's fake. It's AI. Deep fake. Marcus turned slowly to face the gallery. He looked Shaw dead in the eye. It's not a deep fake, Officer Shaw, Marcus said. And my name isn't Marcus Stone. He looked at the bailiff. Unlock these cuffs now. Sit down, Judge Pierce shouted, banging his gavel. Order. I will have order. You have no authority here anymore, Judge, Marcus said, his voice thundering. Because this isn't just a state trial. This is a federal crime scene. Marcus looked towards the double doors at the back of the courtroom. Now, he shouted. The double doors at the back of the courtroom didn't just open. They exploded inward. Federal agents! Nobody move! Hands where I can see them! The roar was deafening. A dozen men in full tactical gear, emblazoned with the bold yellow letters FBI across their chest plates, swarmed into the room like a tide of black steel. The gallery erupted in screams. Civilians ducked under benches. The jury scrambled over one another, pressing themselves against the back wall of the box. Officer Derek Shaw froze. His hand had instinctively twitched toward his service weapon. A fatal mistake. Before his fingers could even graze the leather of his holster, 3 red laser dots appeared on his chest. Don't do it, Shaw! A voice boomed from the tactical team leader. Drop to your knees now! Shaw looked at the lasers, then at Chief Langston. The chief was already on the ground, his face pressed into the dirty linoleum, hands laced behind his head. The fight had left him instantly. He knew what a federal raid looked like. He knew this wasn't a negotiation. Shaw's knees buckled. He sank to the floor, his hands trembling as he raised them. In the center of the chaos, Marcus stood perfectly still. The bailiff, a young man named Peterson, who looked like he was about to faint, was staring at Marcus with wide, terrified eyes. The keys, Marcus said calmly. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. With shaking hands, Peterson fumbled for the keys on his belt. He stepped forward and unlocked the shackles on Marcus's wrists. The metal clicked open, and the heavy cuffs fell to the table with a dull thud. Marcus rubbed his wrists. The skin chafed and raw. He rolled his neck, a sickening crack echoing in the sudden silence that had fallen over the room as the FBI team secured the perimeter. An older agent in a suit, not tactical gear, walked briskly up the center aisle. He carried a duffel bag. He stopped in front of Marcus. Agent Hale, the man said, handing him the bag. We were worried you were going to let them sentence you just to see how far they'd go. I almost did, Reed, Marcus replied. He unzipped the bag. Right there in the middle of the courtroom, Marcus stripped off the orange jumpsuit top. Underneath, he wore a black tactical moisture-wicking shirt. From the bag, he pulled out his own badge, a gold shield on a leather lanyard, and placed it around his neck. Then he clipped his service weapon, a Sig Sauer P226, onto his belt. The transformation was complete. The drifter, Marcus Stone, was gone. Standing in his place was Special Agent Marcus Hale, a senior operative for the Bureau's Public Corruption Unit. He turned to the defense table. Lena Vargas, the public defender, was sitting with her mouth open, clutching her notepad to her chest like a shield. I'm sorry for the deception, Lena, Marcus said, his voice softer now. You were the only person in this building I wasn't investigating. You're a hell of a lawyer. You fought for me when you thought I was nobody. Lena blinked, tears forming in her eyes. You're FBI? Yes, ma'am. Marcus turned his attention to the prosecution table. District Attorney Preston Hale was standing frozen, his skeletal face drained of all color. He looked like a wax statue melting under heat. Marcus walked over to the witness stand where Officer Shaw was being zip-tied by 2 agents. Marcus leaned down, bringing his face inches from the corrupt cop. You said nobody cares about a drifter, Marcus whispered, echoing Shaw's words from the arrest. You were right, but the United States Department of Justice cares a whole lot about a police department running a drug distribution ring, using the county evidence locker as a warehouse. Shaw spat at him. You entrapped me. This is entrapment. It's not entrapment when you plant the evidence yourself, Derek, Marcus said coldly. Agent Reed, get him out of my sight. What is the meaning of this? The shout came from the bench. Judge Harlan Pierce was standing up, banging his gavel furiously. His face was purple with rage. You cannot storm my courtroom. I am a judge of the circuit court. I will have every single one of you held in contempt. Bailiffs, arrest these men. The bailiffs didn't move. They were currently being patted down by federal agents. Marcus turned slowly to face the judge. He walked up the steps of the bench, moving higher until he was eye level with the man who had looked down on him for days. Harlan Pierce, Marcus said, his voice projecting clearly. You are under arrest. On what charge? Pierce sputtered. Incompetence? Rudeness? You have no jurisdiction over my court. Oh, it's not just your court, Harlan, Marcus said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He slammed it onto the judge's bench. That is a federal RICO indictment. Racketeering, influence, and corrupt organizations. We've been listening, Judge, for months. We have your phone taps. We have your bank records in the Cayman Islands. And we have the testimony of your bagman. Judge Pierce's eyes went wide. Bagman? I don't know what you're talking about. We picked up the mayor's aide this morning, Marcus said, delivering the blow. He flipped in a short time. He gave us everyone, the chief, the DA, and you, the silent partner who takes a cut of every kilo seized and resold by the Oak Haven Police Department. A gasp went through the remaining gallery members. The pillars of their community weren't just dirty. They were rotting. Cuff him, Marcus ordered. 2 agents moved up the steps. Judge Pierce, the tyrant of Oak Haven, was spun around and handcuffed in his own chair. Marcus turned back to the room. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by the cold, hard satisfaction of the takedown. But he knew it wasn't over. Secure the exits, Marcus ordered Reed. Nobody leaves. We have to process everyone and get the tech team in here. I want every hard drive in the clerk's office seized before they can run magnets over them. Hail, Reed called out, holding a tablet. You need to see this. The stream. Marcus walked over. What stream? The courtroom feed, Reed said grimly. We cut the local feed, but someone else is broadcasting. And it's not us. Marcus looked at the tablet. It showed a live view of the courtroom from a high angle, likely a security camera hidden in the ventilation grate. The viewer count was ticking up rapidly. Thousands, then tens of thousands. Who is broadcasting this? Marcus asked. We don't know, Reed said. But look at the chat. They aren't just watching. They're cheering for the judge. Marcus frowned. He looked closer at the comments scrolling on the side of the feed. Free Judge Pierce. The feds are the enemy. Oak Haven strong. It's a militia signal, Marcus realized, his blood running cold. Pierce isn't just a crook. He's their ideology. Suddenly, the glass of the courtroom's double doors shattered inward. But it wasn't the FBI this time. A Molotov cocktail smashed against the back wall, erupting in a ball of fire. Fire! Get down! The scream tore through the room as black smoke instantly began to curl toward the ceiling. The fire alarm blared, a piercing shriek that made communication nearly impossible. Secure the prisoners! Marcus roared, coughing as the acrid smoke hit his lungs. Reed, get the judge and the chief out the back way. If they die, our case dies. The FBI team switched instantly from arrest mode to extraction mode. They grabbed Judge Pierce, who was now screaming, not in anger but in terror, and hauled him toward the judge's chambers. The front doors are blocked, an agent shouted over the comms. We have hostiles outside, civilians with rifles. They've barricaded the courthouse steps. Marcus drew his weapon. This wasn't a bust anymore. It was a siege. Lena. Marcus grabbed the public defender by the arm. She was paralyzed with fear, staring at the flames licking up the back paneling. Come with me. He dragged her behind the heavy oak defense table, flipping it over to create a barricade. Stay down. Do not move unless I tell you. Who are they? Lena cried, her voice trembling. Who is attacking us? Pierce's insurance policy. Marcus grimaced, checking the magazine of his cig. He knew if the feds ever came for him, he could rally the local patriot groups. He spun a narrative that the government was trying to take over their town. He's weaponized them. Another bottle smashed through the window, this one filled with paint, blinding the agents trying to return fire. "Thorne, this is Reed." The radio crackled. "The back exit is compromised. Someone chained the fire doors from the outside. We are trapped in the holding area." "Damn it," Marcus hissed. He looked around the courtroom. The fire was spreading. The sprinklers finally kicked in, dousing the room in a shower of dirty water, turning the floor into a slippery mess, but doing little to stop the gasoline fire at the entrance. District Attorney Preston Hale, who had been left unguarded in the chaos, saw his opportunity. He scrambled toward the side door, the one leading to the clerk's office. "Hale, stop!" Marcus shouted. Hale ignored him. He burst through the door and immediately screamed. A gunshot rang out. Hale stumbled back into the courtroom, clutching his shoulder. He fell to the wet floor, writhing in pain. A man stepped through the side door. He wasn't FBI. He wasn't police. He was wearing hunting camouflage and holding a sawed-off shotgun. Behind him were three others, similarly dressed, faces covered with bandanas. "Let the judge go!" the leader screamed. "We know you have him. Release Judge Pierce and we won't kill everyone in here." The tactical agents near the jury box trained their rifles on the intruders. It was a standoff, a Mexican standoff in a burning courtroom with water raining down and the air thick with smoke. Marcus stayed low behind the table. He was calculating angles. 4 hostiles, shotguns, and hunting rifles. High ground advantage was with the FBI, but the hostiles had the element of surprise and desperation. "Listen to me," Marcus shouted from cover. "My name is Special Agent Hale. You are committing a federal act of terrorism. Put down your weapons." "We don't recognize your authority, Fed," the leader shouted back. He racked the slide of his shotgun. "I'm giving you a short time. Send Pierce out, or we start shooting civilians. Starting with this lawyer piece of trash." The gunman pointed the shotgun at Hale, who was bleeding out on the floor. "He's one of yours," Marcus yelled. "That's the district attorney. He failed to protect the judge," the gunman spat. "He's expendable." Marcus looked at Lena. She was huddled in a ball, praying. "Reed," Marcus whispered into his radio headset. "Do you have a shot on the leader? Side door." "Negative," Reed replied. "Too much smoke. I can't risk hitting the jury." Marcus took a deep breath. He had to do this himself. "Okay," Marcus shouted, standing up slowly, his hands raised, his gun hanging from one finger by the trigger guard. "Okay, let's talk. You want Pierce? You can have him." "Marcus, what are you doing?" Lena hissed. "Shut up," Marcus whispered. He walked out from behind the table, stepping into the open aisle. The water soaked his tactical shirt instantly. The leader of the militia swung his shotgun toward Marcus. "Bring him out," the gunman ordered. "He's back there." Marcus gestured with his head toward the chambers. "But he's handcuffed. I have the key." Marcus reached into his pocket with his free hand. He pulled out the key that Peterson had used to unlock his shackles earlier. He held it up. "Let me go unlock him," Marcus said calmly. "You can take him and go. We just want the civilians safe." The gunman narrowed his eyes. "Toss the gun." Marcus tossed his Sig Sauer to the side. It skittered across the wet floor, sliding under a bench. "Smart move," the gunman sneered. "Now move slowly." Marcus walked towards the side door, moving diagonally. He was closing the distance. He wasn't walking toward the chambers. He was walking toward the gunman to get the angle to the chambers. "Stop," the gunman yelled. "That's close enough. Toss the key." "It's slippery," Marcus said. "I don't want to drop it." "Toss it." Marcus flicked his wrist. He threw the small metal key, but he didn't throw it at the gunman. He threw it high toward the fluorescent light fixture, directly above the gunman's head. The gunman's eyes instinctively tracked the shiny metal object flying through the air. That split-second distraction was all Marcus needed. He didn't dive for his gun. He dove for the gunman. Marcus hit the man low, tackling him around the waist. The shotgun discharged into the ceiling, blowing out the lights and plunging that corner of the room into semi-darkness. "Move in! Move in!" Reed roared. The FBI team surged forward. Flashbangs detonated. Bang! Bang! Blinding white light cutting through the smoke. Marcus wrestled with the leader in the water. The man was strong, fueled by adrenaline and fanaticism. He clawed at Marcus's eyes, trying to gouge them out. Marcus blocked a strike and delivered a short, brutal elbow to the man's jaw. Bone crunched. The man went limp. Marcus rolled over, grabbing the shotgun. He pumped it and aimed it at the other 3 militiamen who were staggering, blinded by the flashbangs. "Drop it!" Marcus screamed. "Or you die right now!" The 3 men dropped their rifles. They raised their hands, coughing in the smoke. Agents swarmed them, zip-tying them and shoving them against the wall. "Clear!" Reed shouted. "Room secure!" Marcus stood up, his chest heaving. He wiped blood from his lip. He looked down at Hale, the corrupt DA. Hale was pale, gasping for air. "Paramedics!" Marcus yelled. "Get a medic in here!" He looked over at the defense table. Lena Vargas slowly peered over the edge. She saw Marcus standing there, battered, soaked, holding a shotgun, surrounded by smoke and defeated enemies. She stood up, her legs shaking. She walked over to him. "You," she stammered. "You threw the key." "Diversion," Marcus said, trying to catch his breath. "You could have been killed. Part of the job." Marcus handed the shotgun to an agent and walked over to where Reed was dragging Judge Pierce out of the chambers. Pierce looked disheveled, his robe wet, his dignity gone. "Is it safe?" Pierce wheezed. "Are they gone?" Marcus grabbed Pierce by the lapels of his expensive robe. "You listen to me, Pierce. You incited this. Every drop of blood spilled here today is on your hands. I'm going to make sure you never see sunlight again. I'm going to bury you under the federal prison system so deep they'll have to pump air down to you." Pierce stared at Marcus, and for the first time the arrogance was truly gone. He saw the end. "Get him out of here," Marcus said, shoving him toward the agents. The fire department burst through the front doors, dousing the flames. The siege was broken. But as the smoke cleared, Marcus looked back at the camera in the vent, the one broadcasting the stream. The red light was still blinking. "Reed," Marcus said, pointing at the camera. "That wasn't the militia." "What?" "The militia attacked because they were watching the stream," Marcus said, his mind racing. "But they didn't start the stream. Someone else set that camera up. Someone else wanted this to happen. Someone wanted Pierce to be a martyr." He walked over to Hale, who was being loaded onto a stretcher. Marcus grabbed Hale's bloody shirt. "Hale, look at me. Who set up the camera? Who is the real money behind Pierce?" Hale coughed, blood bubbling on his lips. He looked at Marcus with a terrifying clarity. "It wasn't Pierce," Hale whispered. "Pierce works for him." "Who?" Marcus demanded. "Who is him?" Hale's eyes rolled back, but he managed one last word. "Senator." Hale passed out. Marcus stood up, staring at the unconscious man. "A senator?" Lena asked, standing beside him. "A U.S. senator?" Marcus looked at Reed. The victory of the raid suddenly felt very small. They had cut off the head of the snake only to find out it was just the tail of a dragon. "We need to get to a secure line," Marcus said. "This goes all the way to D.C." Days after the Oak Haven siege, the smell of smoke still lingered in Marcus Hale's memory, but the air in Washington, D.C. was different. It smelled of expensive cologne, exhaust fumes, and power. Marcus sat in a dimly lit conference room inside the J. Edgar Hoover building. Opposite him sat Assistant Director Joyce Vance and a terrified Lena Vargas. Lena had been moved to a safe house immediately after the raid. She was the only civilian witness who knew the full extent of Judge Pierce's operation. "Preston Hale is dead," Vance said, tossing a file onto the table. "Died in the ICU shortly after. Embolism. Or at least that's what the chart says." "It wasn't an embolism," Marcus said, his voice low. "Someone got to him. He was about to give up a name." "He gave you a name," Vance corrected. "Or a title. Senator. Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down, Hale? There are 100 senators. Half of them are on payrolls they shouldn't be on." "It's not just any senator," Marcus said, standing up and walking to the whiteboard. Look at the timeline. Judge Pierce started his Tough on Crime initiative years ago. That coincides exactly with the passage of the Safe Streets and Communities Act, a federal grant program for rural police departments. Marcus drew a line connecting Oak Haven to the act. Oak Haven received millions in grants. For a town of a few thousand people, they bought military gear, surveillance tech, and they built a new evidence storage facility. The warehouse, Lena whispered, where they kept the drugs. Exactly, Marcus nodded at her. The federal government paid to build the cartel's distribution center. And who sponsored the Safe Streets Act? Who pushed it through the Judiciary Committee with aggressive lobbying? Marcus taped a printed photograph onto the whiteboard. It showed a man with silver hair, a winning smile, and eyes that looked like shark glass. Senator Harlan Vale, Vance said, her face paling. The chairman of the Oversight Committee. Marcus, you can't be serious. Vale is untouchable. He's the frontrunner for the vice presidency. He's using rural towns as wash cycles, Marcus explained. The grant money goes to the towns. The towns hire contractors owned by shell companies. The shell companies donate to Vale's super PAC. And the drugs, that's just the bonus revenue stream to keep the local cops loyal. It's a perfect circle, Lena said, horrifying realization dawning on her. Judge Pierce wasn't the boss. He was just a franchise manager. And now Vale is cleaning house, Marcus said. He burned the courthouse to kill the evidence. He killed Hale to silence the witness. And now, Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. It was a notification from a news app. Breaking. Senator Vale calls for emergency hearing on FBI overreach in Oak Haven tragedy. Marcus showed the phone to Vance. He's not running, Marcus said. He's attacking. He's spinning the Oak Haven raid as a rogue FBI operation that endangered civilians and caused the fire. He's going to drag me in front of the Senate and crucify me on live television to cover his tracks. Vance rubbed her temples. If he subpoenas you, you have to go. And he will control the narrative. He'll have the questions rigged. He'll make you look like a domestic terrorist. Let him subpoena me, Marcus said, a cold smile forming on his lips. He thinks he's dragging a beat cop into his office. He forgets I spent years undercover. I know how to wear a mask. Marcus, Lena said, reaching out to touch his arm. If you go in there and you miss, if you don't nail him, you're going to prison for the rest of your life. He'll pin the fire on you. I know, Marcus said, but I need one thing. I need the ledger. The ledger burned in the courthouse, Vance pointed out. No, Marcus shook his head. Judge Pierce was greedy. He wouldn't trust Vale to pay him his fair share without insurance. He kept a personal record. It wasn't in the courthouse. Marcus turned to Lena. Lena, think. You knew the town. Where did he go when he wanted to be alone? Where did he feel safe? Lena closed her eyes, thinking back to the years of watching the tyrant judge rule her town. He had a boat, a small fishing trawler down at the murky lake on the edge of the county. He called it the Gavel. He spent every Sunday there. Marcus grabbed his jacket. Vance, stall the subpoena. Give me time. You have hours. And Hale, don't miss. The Senate hearing room was a cavern of mahogany and marble designed to make human beings feel small. The air was conditioned to a frigid chill. Cameras from every major news network lined the back wall, their red recording lights looking like unblinking eyes. Senator Harlan Vale sat at the center of the raised dais. He looked every inch the statesman. Impeccable navy suit, American flag pin on his lapel, and a grave, concerned expression plastered on his face. Below him, sitting at a small wooden table with a single microphone, was Marcus Hale. Marcus wore his dress uniform, his face impassive. Behind him sat Lena Vargas, acting as his legal counsel, though her presence was mostly symbolic. Mr. Hale, Vale began, his voice a smooth baritone that echoed through the room. We are here today to discuss the tragic events in Oak Haven. A town burned, a district attorney dead, a judge hospitalized, and at the center of it all, you. Vale paused for effect. The shutters of the cameras clicked furiously. Senator, Marcus said calmly into the microphone. "I was executing a federal warrant on a RICO predicate." "A warrant?" Vale scoffed. "You entered a sovereign courtroom with a tactical team. You initiated a firefight that led to the burning of a historic building. Tell me, Agent Hale, did you authorize the use of flashbang grenades in a room full of civilians?" "I authorized the rescue of hostages from a militia group," Marcus replied. "A militia group that you provoked." Vale slammed his hand on the desk. "We have reports that the citizens of Oakhaven were peaceful until your team arrived like an invading army. You are a cowboy, Agent Hale, a dangerous relic who thinks he is above the law." Vale was good. He was twisting the facts, playing to the cameras, painting Marcus as the villain. The narrative was setting like concrete. "I have sworn statements here." Vale held up a stack of papers from Officer Derek Shaw. "He claims you planted evidence. He claims you assaulted him." "Officer Shaw is currently facing charges for trafficking a large quantity of cocaine," Marcus said dryly. "I wouldn't rely on his character." "And yet," Vale smiled, a predatory grin, "you are the one with a history of violence. You are the one who destroyed a town. This committee finds your actions reprehensible. I am recommending that you be stripped of your badge and indicted for involuntary manslaughter regarding the death of Mr. Hale." The room gasped. This was it, the kill shot. Lena squeezed Marcus's hand under the table. Her palm was sweating. "Now, Marcus," she whispered. "Do it now." Marcus leaned forward. He didn't look angry. He looked bored. "Senator," Marcus said, "before you pass judgment, I would like to enter one piece of evidence into the record." Vale waved his hand dismissively. "We have seen your evidence, Agent. It is inadmissible." "This isn't from the Oakhaven courthouse," Marcus said. He reached into his briefcase. "This is from the hull of a boat called the Gavel." Vale's face twitched. Just a micro-expression, a tightening of the jaw. But Marcus saw it. "I don't know what you're talking about," Vale said, his voice slightly higher. "I think you do," Marcus said. He pulled out a leather-bound notebook. It was water-damaged, smelling of lake water and mildew, but the pages were legible. "This is Judge Pierce's personal ledger," Marcus announced to the room. "It details every single transaction from the Oakhaven evidence locker for years." "Objection!" a lawyer for the senator shouted from the side. "This is a surprise exhibit, not cleared by the committee." "I'm not finished," Marcus said, his voice rising, commanding the room. "Page 42, date around that time. Payment of a large sum is sent to Apex Solutions. Page 43, date shortly after. Payment of an even larger sum sent to Apex Solutions." Vale stood up. "Bailiffs, remove this man. He is grandstanding." "I ran a trace on Apex Solutions recently," Marcus continued, shouting over the senator. He pulled out a second document, a bank record. Apex Solutions has only one beneficiary, a super PAC named Liberty for Tomorrow. Marcus looked directly into the camera lens. "Senator Vale, are you not the chairman of Liberty for Tomorrow?" The room exploded. Reporters jumped to their feet, shouting questions. The flashes were blinding. Vale's face had gone from confident to ash gray. He looked around the room, realizing the trap hadn't been for Marcus. It had been for him. He had called the hearing to destroy Marcus, but he had just given Marcus a national stage to unveil the smoking gun. "This hearing is adjourned," Vale screamed, slamming his gavel. "Adjourned!" "You can't adjourn the truth, Senator," Marcus shouted. "The FBI has already frozen the accounts. We have the wire transfers, it's over." "Cut his mic," Vale yelled at the technicians. "Cut the feed." The microphone went dead, but it didn't matter. The noise in the room was deafening. Suddenly, the doors to the hearing room opened, but it wasn't bailiffs coming in. It was the FBI director herself, flanked by 4 agents. She walked down the center aisle, ignoring the chaos. She walked right past Marcus, giving him a curt nod of respect. She walked up the steps of the dais. She stopped in front of Senator Vale. "Senator Harlan Vale," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "I have a warrant for your arrest." Vale looked at the agents, then at the cameras, then at Marcus. The arrogance finally shattered. He slumped back into his chair, a small, defeated man. "You can't do this," Vale whispered. "I'm a senator." "Not anymore," Marcus said from the table below. "Now you're just another suspect." As the agents moved in to cuff the senator on live television, Marcus sat back in his chair. He looked at Lena. She was crying, a smile breaking through the tears. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." "Not yet," Marcus said. He wasn't looking at the senator. He was looking at his phone. A new message had just popped up. It wasn't from Vance. It wasn't from the office. It was from an unknown number. "You took down the pawn. You took down the knight. But you forgot the king. The game isn't over, Agent Hale. Check your daughter's school schedule." Marcus's blood froze in his veins. The victory evaporated instantly. He stood up so fast his chair toppled over. "Marcus?" Lena asked, alarmed. "What is it?" "My daughter," Marcus breathed. "They know about Maya." Marcus Hale didn't wait for a direct order. The second he read the text, adrenaline spiked, overriding the fatigue of the last days. He didn't bother reholstering his weapon. He just ran.
"Maya St. Anne's Academy,"
Marcus roared, shoving the phone into Agent Reed's hand.
"Track this number. Secure her now."
Reed, accustomed to Hale's high-stakes intensity, didn't hesitate. "Go, Agent. I'll mobilize DC protection, but you get to the school." Marcus sprinted out of the Senate hearing room, pushing past stunned reporters and the flustered agents, still processing the arrested Senator Vale. Lena Vargas, recovering quickly, grabbed Marcus's briefcase and followed him. They commandeered an unmarked FBI vehicle. Marcus drove with the reckless speed of a father racing against a countdown he couldn't see. "Who is the king?" Lena gasped, gripping the dashboard. "Who is higher than a senator?" "Someone who doesn't dirty their own hands," Marcus ground out. "Someone who thinks distance is a safe distance. Someone with the reach to know Maya's schedule." They reached St. Anne's in under 10 minutes. Marcus burst through the gates, badge flashing. Maya was safe, playing on the jungle gym, blissfully unaware of the terror her father felt. The school was immediately locked down. As Maya was secured by the detail, Marcus stood outside, the sweat turning cold on his skin. He looked at the text again. "Check your daughter's school schedule." It wasn't a kidnapping threat. It was a taunt, a precision strike designed to pull him out of the Capitol building. Suddenly, Reed's voice crackled through the comms. "Hale, it was a feint. A high-level IP trace. Shows the message server linking back to a private line owned by Preston Lang. Lang, the senior lobbyist for the Safe Streets Act. Preston Lang." Marcus repeated the name associated with every piece of legislation that enabled the fraud. The man who wrote the contracts, ran the super PACs, and kept the political machine oiled. The ultimate fixer. The king. "But here's the kicker," Reed continued, his voice tight with alarm. "Lang didn't just want you out. Our cyber team just detected a massive encrypted data wipe attempt originating from the FBI's high-security evidence bunker in Quantico, where we transferred all of Pierce's and Vale's digital evidence this morning." Marcus slammed his fist on the hood of the car. He was stalling us. The threat to Maya was calculated to buy him the exact travel time needed to get to Quantico and erase the final master ledger before we could decrypt it. "He must have a mole inside our own department," Lena whispered, utterly shocked by the depth of the corruption. "He doesn't need a mole," Marcus snarled. "He just needs the digital keys. Reed, reroute the team to Quantico. I'm taking the bird now." Quantico. The secure evidence bunker was miles deep, protected by layers of military-grade security. Marcus arrived via helicopter, dropping onto the tarmac and sprinting toward the access point. Reed met him at the security door. "He's inside, Hale. We've locked him in the decryption room, but the firewall is failing. He's using a digital backdoor he paid someone to install years ago," Reed shouted. They breached the final door. Preston Lang, impeccably dressed in an expensive suit, was standing over a console, his fingers flying across the keys. A small black box was plugged into the federal network, the digital kill switch. Lang looked up, his face devoid of fear, only cold fury. "You were supposed to be watching your child, Agent Hale. That was an expensive distraction, and now you've ruined my beautiful, elegant exit. You built an entire drug cartel on the backs of federal grants and used dirty cops and judges as your disposable staff," Marcus said, walking slowly toward the man. "You used a senator as a shield, and you were willing to threaten a child to cover your tracks." "It's just business, Agent," Lang sneered. "I provided liquidity. I ensured political continuity. I protected American interests from messy, low-level crime by managing it myself." He looked back at the screen. "A short time more, and this entire investigation is vapor. You will have nothing but the word of 2 drug dealers and a politician." He pressed the final sequence. Wipe sequence initiated. Marcus didn't charge him. He stopped a few feet away. "You're a brilliant architect, Lang," Marcus said, nodding slowly. "You think you've considered every variable, but you forgot one thing." Lang frowned, confused. "What?" "The evidence wasn't the target," Marcus said, stepping aside, revealing Agent Reed, who was holding a high-definition recording device. "You were. We knew the man who ran an operation this large wouldn't rely on a simple text message. We knew you'd be tracking us." Lang's eyes widened. "That text message wasn't a feint to the evidence," Marcus explained. "It was a lure to bring me here so you could watch me fail. But the minute that message hit my phone, every keystroke you've made, every access code you've entered, and this entire confession has been streamed directly to the Department of Justice's grand jury." Lang stared at the recording device. The sophisticated trap he had set for Marcus had become the self-destruct mechanism for the king. "The digital kill switch you just activated," Marcus said, a slow, deep satisfaction settling in his voice. "It didn't erase the evidence. It triggered a deep upload to a secure DOJ server. You just signed your own confession, Lang." The karma was immediate, swift, and overwhelming. Lang didn't fight. He just looked at the blinking upload icon, realizing his empire was gone in a single digital stroke. He was the most powerful man in Washington, brought down by his own hubris and the one black FBI agent he had underestimated until the very last second. Reed cuffed the king of corruption. The reign of Harlan Vale, Judge Pierce, Chief Langston, and the ultimate puppet master, Preston Lang, ended not with a bang, but with a mouse click. Marcus Hale, the man they tried to jail for a long time, didn't just walk free. He stood tall, the ultimate victor in a game he was never supposed to win. The Oak Haven case became a national scandal, peeling back the layers of corruption that snaked from a small southern town all the way to the highest levels of Washington. Officer Derek Shaw, facing life in prison, turned state's evidence, delivering crucial testimony that sealed the fate of Chief Langston and the ailing Judge Pierce. Pierce died in federal custody months later, his reputation and fortune gone. Senator Vale and Preston Lang were convicted on multiple counts of RICO and conspiracy. The irony was brutal. The political establishment, which had built its power on the illusion of law and order, was dismantled by the exact system it tried to corrupt. Justice, often slow, finally delivered the hard karma these villains deserved, thanks to the patience and resilience of Special Agent Marcus Hale. If this epic tale of corruption, betrayal, and ultimate justice captivated you, then you know the importance of shining a light on the darkest corners of power. Don't let this story fade into the news cycle. Give this video a like right now to help the algorithm share Agent Hale's fight for truth. Share this incredible story with everyone who needs to see the power of federal oversight. And the most crucial step, subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next time we uncover a shocking story where the victim becomes the hero. What was your favorite twist?